Welcome to Fargo, the city of frost and fire. Learn all about this north from normal metro, one person at a time. This is the Fargo 5. We're having some technical difficulties today, so my camera is not what it usually is. Renee from Ellis Transit is here today. Hello, Renee.
Hey, what's going on?
Whoop, why don't we try that one more time, Renee?
Hey, what's going on?
There we go. It helps if I turn your microphone on.
Yeah, well, one of the many technical difficulties.
We are having a lot of fun today, but that's what makes it fun and exciting, is that it's live radio. Anything can happen, anything at all. And so here we are. We're off to a start. It's very exciting. You are an incredibly famous person. You do all the social medias. Everybody knows you. Before I even met you, my wife had mentioned you and said, have you heard of this Renee Ellis person? You should get to know her. And then you showed up at SBC, and that's where I met you. But you are not from Fargo originally. You are from Arizona.
Arizona, yeah, northern Arizona, from the Navajo reservation.
And
yeah.
wow, okay, so you grew up on the reservation out in Navajo.
Yep.
Until how old? When did you leave the reservation?
Well, I grew up in a dorm. So like a BIA dorm system.
Oh,
where
I don't know what that is at all.
Yeah, when I was in kindergarten, I went and left for a week at a time to go to kindergarten.
Okay.
And on Fridays, my parents would pick me up.
It's like a boarding school.
Yeah, basically a boarding school.
Is that common out in the Arizona reservations?
There's not very many of them around, but when I was a younger child, there was a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah, they're phasing them out.
Okay. And then when did you leave Arizona?
I left Arizona when I started high school.
Okay.
Another dorm into Utah. Yeah.
Into Utah. Okay,
yeah.
So these dormitories, these Native American reservation boarding schools, like that's
pretty much.
I had no idea this is a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you've been all around. So you went from Arizona.
Yep.
To Utah.
To Utah, yeah.
And then you did high school all there.
All there.
And so were you living in those dorms that whole time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You go for 3 to 4 months at a time, depending on what holidays landed on where, and you'd go home for 2 to 3 days at a time throughout the whole entire year.
That's wild. I've never heard of these before. And then you graduate high school.
Yeah.
And you say, where do you go from there?
I went to San Diego.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So it's a winding road that led you to Fargo.
Yeah. I went to San Diego. I wanted to become a welder. All of my brothers were welders.
A welder?
Yeah.
Wow, shout out. That's another female welder before Yvette Reyes. You ever met her?
I have, yeah.
She did
juggling
welding
thing, the
aerial arts.
Yes.
And now, but she was, before she got into the aerial arts, she was a welder.
Yeah.
Did you do the welding then as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've had 2 welders on my show, and both of them are women. What are the odds? What are the odds of that?
When you're 17 years old, 18 years old, you're like, okay, fast track me to the fastest thing and get me money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first thing that I knew, that I could travel places, be with my family, my brothers specifically, and then travel with them to do shutdowns 3 to 12 weeks at a time. We would go to different places, hotel rooms and stuff like that. Yeah.
And then from sunny from very warm Arizona to pretty temperate Utah to sunny California, and then where did it take you next?
I actually ended up in Craig, Colorado.
Colorado.
Yeah. There's a long, like almost 2-3 years. I think majority of people are still there. There was a shutdown. They were getting ready to build a brand new, one of those power plants.
Wow.
So, yeah.
When did you get to Fargo?
When did I get to Fargo?
You gotta be.
Yeah. There's a long winding road of a lot of things that I did. So after welding, I was like, this is too much traveling for me. I want to stop. I want to not do this anymore. I got into law enforcement.
Yeah, you were a police officer.
Yeah.
For a minute.
For about 12, 13 years.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of training. I mean, that's not just like, I'll pick up a job at McDonald's. That's like, you got to go. I have a brother in law enforcement up in Monoman.
Yeah.
And he, all kinds of.
Yeah, the last place I was at was over at Traverse County about 5 years ago.
Okay, where's Traverse County?
In Minnesota.
Okay.
Wheatville.
Oh, sure.
Wheaton.
Sure.
Is it Wheaton?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know where I am right now. So that's like central Minnesota, or
it's actually right next to like Sisseton to Traverse County.
Okay.
Right across the border from Sisseton.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. And you did that for 12 years.
I did that for 12 years. Yeah.
And then you were like, I'm done.
I don't want to.
I don't want to be.
It was just too much.
What was too much about it?
It was just a lot of politics.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it was 2018 possibly at that time.
Yeah.
And things were getting a little,
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, this is not for me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I moved on.
I think being a police officer and being a teacher, I think those are two positions where like the internal politics even is maybe more than people say I want to do this job, like because the job itself is something like protecting people or teaching children, and then you find out that like internally there's just a lot of strange politics going on, right?
Yeah, it's a very male-dominated area.
Sure. Yeah,
so there was
more so than welding.
Yeah, well, I mean, welding is different because they're guys, and they're like, they know you're there to do a job. You're not going to be on a welding crew if you don't know what you're doing. So you're part of a team, and it makes it better that way.
Yeah.
But for law enforcement, it's very, very political. So I don't want to get into deep with that
this
one,
is
but
not.
that's it.
This is not the show for that. But that's very interesting. Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. This is all. I've known you a while. I didn't know this long winding road. I knew you had been a police officer, and so then you give up the cop life. You say I'm not a police officer anymore, and you come over to the big city, Fargo.
Yeah.
How's that compared to the other cities that you lived in before, as far
I
as
think
size
Fargo
was?
is probably the biggest. I lived in Bismarck for a while when I first moved up here in 2010. That was to finish up my law enforcement degree and stuff like that. So, but I moved in here probably 2019, right after the pandemic.
Yeah.
We moved into Moorhead, and since then I've been driving, doing Uber, doing all those things, and then.
And you said I can do this myself.
Hell yeah!
I don't need Uber.
No, I don't need Uber. No.
And so you hung out your own shingle. And you've been making the rounds, meeting everybody. You do all the networking things. You do all the self-promotion things. You're very good at it.
It's a lot of learning.
Yeah.
A while ago, I went back and looked at my first TikTok that I started, and the whole entire time I was just cringing. I'm like, oh, this is horrible. But no, there's a system that I've learned that, get what you need to say out front and then say happy, smiley things after.
Yes. Well, and being positive that's what I learned in real. I used to be all politics and religion all the time. That's all I ever talked about. Yeah. And then I got into real estate, and I realized people don't want to buy houses from you when they vehemently disagree with you.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to be more positive, right?
Yeah. It's all about the customer service portion. You got to make everybody smile and
got to make everyone happy all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, that's it for the first segment. They go very quickly. We're gonna listen. So I asked you for some music links. You were like, I don't care. So my wife put these together.
Perfect.
She's gonna have us listening to Ellie Goulding with Only You. Do you know who that is? I don't know.
Ellie Goulding's awesome.
It's all my wife's music, so I don't. So disclaimer here, I don't know any of it. We're gonna listen to Only You, and when we come back, Fargo fun. So don't go nowhere.